Hello. Guys, do let me know if you can hear me. So at least I don't. Guys, I'm audible here now. Please do let me know if I'm audible here. I see three people. So, okay, fantastic. Okay, sorry. So Priya is saying I'm audible. So let's wait couple of more minute other people to join. And okay, before that, so guys, do let me know if you get time to go through the description of this session, so just to ensure you know what we are going to do today. Okay, Priya, thank you so much. Yes, I can help you here. Perfect, super. Okay, so let's start without doing any delay. And this session is going to be for next 1 hour, and in the 45 minute we'll do this session. And the last, okay, perfect. Now I see many people saying I'm audible. Kishore, I'm good, thank you so much. So yeah, 45 minute I will do this session where we are going to talk about how to set up the subnet for any organization, any company. And in the last 15 minutes I will take your question. So I will recommend please park your question for the end, where I will take your all question. So let me share my screen, and if you see my screen then type S in the chat box. If you see my screen, please type S in the chat box. And also I'm going to highlight something, and again type which color you will see when I'm highlighting on my screen. Just I wanted to make sure my pencil is also working. Kishore is saying yes. Selvi is saying S. Miss screen, you can see the screen. Perfect. Super. Okay, fantastic. So thank you so much, and welcome once again for joining. And yeah, we had the audio issues. Now it is fixed now. So what we are going to do today? Today we are going to set up a VPC for the organization called EpicRead. So this is a real time problem, and we can say the scenario I have solved for one of my customer. And same problem I have put it this as a scenario, so you will understand how this is really happen in the real time customer. So in these assignments, when I was doing these assignments, I was working as a network engineer. My role was the network engineer. So here I will assume you are going to act as a network engineer while solving this assignment. And when we are solving this assignment as a network engineer, then you need to think as a network engineer. So as a network engineer, when we design a any solution, there's a couple of things we need to keep in mind. And this is again already asked in the question itself. So let's go and start with the background. So what customer is asking, and customer said they, let me get my pencil. Yeah. So they want to design a VPC, and this VPC should be secured enough, and to ensure their resources inside the VPC able to connect with the internet. So it should have the access to the public internet, and there will be also network, and that network will, in that network if we create any resources, that will remain private. So how do we do that? So basically for doing that, we need to design a VPC. So let's assume this is a VPC, and if I name this as a VPC, as we are going to do this for the Epic Reads, so let's call this Epic Reads VPC. And VPC, if you don't know, stands for Virtual Private Cloud. And if you see here, they're saying we need to create two network. One is the public network, then another is the private network. So public network is basically network. If you don't know, in this network, if you create any resources, then this resource will be able to access from the internet. From the internet, you will be able to access this resource which is present in your public subnet. And the resource which you create in the private subnet, this resource will not be accessible from the internet. So this will be private. Now again, customer has the architecture. They have given the architecture. So now let's look into that. But in this architecture, they have 6 subnet. So we have VPC here. We have VPC, and inside this VPC, give me a moment. Inside this VPC, we have two public network and two private network and two data network. And here, maybe you will be thinking, why do we need two public network? So we need two public network to make our network high available, our infrastructure high available. So imagine if XYZ region, if this entire region goes down, then still if you have application running in another AWS region, this will be available and accessible to us. So this is purpose of making our network high available. So to create this network, what do we need? To create this network, we need two things. First things, we need name of our network, and it could be any name, and that's quite simple. So here we know, as we are going to create this network for the Epic Rates, so we can call it something Epic Rates, maybe VPC, Virtual Private Cloud. Other than that, there's one important thing we need, and that is called CIDR, classless inter domain routing. And this is nothing but this is a range of the IP address. So this will be something like 10.0.0.0. So it's a range of the IP address and followed by suffix, and that's called subnet. So let's say if you put 16 here, it means when we use this, okay, let me type again, 10.0.0.0/16. It means here we will create around 65,000 IP address. So to create a VPC, we need two things. One, we need CIDR. Another, we need name of the VPC. Now, when we use this VPC CIDR to design this network, then within this network, we have subnetwork. So we have the public network and the private network. Then again, we need to decide what will be the IP address for this public subnetwork. Again, this another public subnetwork followed by this another subnetwork. So basically, we need to divide CIDR that we are going to use for VPC for our subnetwork. And this is something we can do with help of some online tool and behind this some mathematics. Okay, if you are really a network engineer, then you need to do that. If not, you can use some tool for doing that. But before that, it's very important for us to understand how many IP address do we need? So let me know in the chat box, what do you think when we are designing a network for any customer? So how many IP address do we need? Or maybe what is purpose of the IP address? Let me know in the chat box. Then I'm going to open a tool, and from that tool we are going to understand how many IP address do we need. So this question is something you should ask with the organization. How many application or maybe resources they want to create and launch inside their this network? And nowadays, see, if you go 10 years before, that time we were creating, we have the just couple of account, and in that account we create a VPC. On that VPC we put our all applications. But nowadays customers are creating AWS accounts per application and per environment. So if customer has, let's say, 100 application and they are operating across four environment, maybe dev, QA, prod, pre-prod, then we need 400 AWS accounts, and then each account we will have its own VPC. So here we really need to understand how this IP address need to be divided and need to be managed. And this is very big task. And that's something you really not need to know as a cloud engineer. This network will be created. And if someone is asking you to create, then you can ask with them, okay, how many resources you need in this network, or maybe you can directly ask how many IP address do you need. So this is something you need to decide, and based on that we do all this calculation. And again, which IP address do we use? So there is different types of IP address classes. There is IP address class A, IP address class B, and C. So again, this IP class, something you need to ask with the organization, and then we need to follow their rules, because all organizations has their own way of managing their IP address, and that's where we don't have any control. Okay, so let's assume if they are saying we can go ahead and use network class A, IP address class A. So IP address, private IP address class A starts with 10.0.0.0, and then this is called net mask, as I was explaining. So all together, this, if I delete this 10.0.0 slash 16, this is called CIDR. And now here we need to understand in this CIDR how many IP address do we get. So for that, putting this and this subnet mask, we can just keep click on calculate, then we know how many IP address do we get in this CIDR. So in this CIDR we will get 256 IP address, sorry, 254 IP address. So here at least now we know from this CIDR we will get 256 IP address. Now we need to understand, if you need more, then what you do here. If you need more IP address, then this suffix, what we see 24, so you can put 22. If you go the downside, so CIDR starts from 16 and it goes up to 32. So below means lower has the bigger IP range, and bigger has the less number of IP. Okay, and how this is come, again there is some mathematics, we not need to go there. So if you put 22 and let's calculate here, now you see we are getting 1022 IP address. And maybe if you can put 20 and calculate, then we know here we are getting around 4094 IP address. So here we need to understand for this entire VPC, if you go here, for this entire VPC, what will be IP address range? Okay, so guys, let me know in the chat box how much IP address should we take for this example. Just wanted to make sure you guys are with me. Shall we go for the 254 or maybe 1000 or maybe 4000? Let me know in the chat box. So on what IT Jha is saying 2, okay, so it is not possible, okay. So 2 IP address is very difficult. Means, so this CIDR, what we are deciding, this is we are deciding for the VPC, okay, and VPC will have the subnet, right, and this subnet also need IP address, right. So we need to understand, okay, we need bigger range. So 2 is not a good example. So I see some people saying 254, right. So this is very good number, okay. When you see organization with a structure like they have hundreds of AWS accounts, right? So this becomes very, very important. So let's go with 24, and we know here we will get 256 IP address, and this is not bad, right? Now let's go to our architecture. So now we know this IP range 10.0.0.0/24 going to be IP address for our VPC, for our this VPC, right? Now, within this VPC, we have how many subnets? We have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 subnet. So now this IP address 10.0.0.0/24 need to be divided into the 6 part, 6 sub network. And this is again, to do that, we will go to this tool, okay, and here we'll move. So he's saying move this 24 to which, so here let's say maybe 28, okay, and calculate. Now here we will get around 16 subnets, okay, and each subnet will have 14 IP address. But how much do we need? We need only 6, right? So here we can go and put it 26, and again let's calculate it and see. Now we are getting 4 subnet, and each will have 64 IP address, but we need 6, right? So maybe let's put here 27 and calculate. So now we are going to get 8, and each will have the 30 IP address. But again, 2 subnet IP address will be remain for us, and maybe we can use for other purposes, okay. So now we know our this is the okay. Now what will be CIDR for our subnets, okay. So this is something you can check from here. So this is a CIDR for our VPC, and this could be CIDR for our public subnet A. This could be for the public subnet B. This is for the private subnet A. This is for private subnet B, and DB subnet 1 and DB subnet B. So this CIDR we will use, okay, and the remaining two will be with us, and we can use for other purpose. But what could be the good example of using this IP address? Okay, now let's go to this architecture and understand one very important concept here. So here in this public IP address, sorry, in public subnet, this public subnet, we will only put the resources that need access from the internet, right? And we know in private subnet is the subnet which is not accessible from the internet, whereas public subnet is accessible from the internet, right? So maybe for the customer you can ask, hey, so currently based on our current understanding, what we did, we have done this calculation, and we have created 8 sub network for this network, and each will have the 30 IP address, okay. Is this fine for you? Or maybe do you think for your this public subnet, maybe this two public subnet, do you need more IP address? If they say, then you can allocate more IP address for this public subnet. Or even they could say no, maybe go 30 IP address for this public subnets, okay, and again 30 IP address for this database subnet, but for my private subnet I need more IP addresses, right? So remaining IPs we can consume over here. So again this could be planned, okay. So again we can do like this. So this is good example. So perfect. Now let's go to this calculation, and now we know our IP address range, right? Now let's go to the assignment once again here and scroll down. And to create this network, okay, so here I have given the steps, and this steps is again this is present in the video description as well, right? So before creating our VPC, okay, what we need the planning, right? And what should be the planning? Our planning will be, we need to determine and understand what will be CIDR block for the VPC and the VPC subnets, right? And this part we have done, right? Then plan number of public and the private subnet based on the anticipated deployment of services and the application. So that's something you can ask with the customer, but in our case we know customer said I need two public subnets, two private subnets, and two DB subnets. Now let's scroll down. Now what is the next step? Next step is to create a VPC, right? So to create VPC, we can create this two way. One way is we can go and use AWS management console, and this is very easy way of accessing AWS services and AWS resources. So this is called management console. And another way we can use AWS CLI command line interface, okay. So for that we need to install AWS CLI on our local system, and then we need to configure access key and secret key. Then we can access AWS services, and in this way again we have to pass some command to create the VPC. But for this demo we are going to use AWS management console. Guys, if this is clear so far, clear, type clear in the chat box or say in the chat box. And now to go to the VPC, okay, first things first. Okay, I see Anubhav Jha is saying clear. I believe this is Anubhav Jha. I know him. He's from the one of my program. Perfect. Lakshman is saying clear. Fantastic. Okay, guys. So here you let me know. Now we are in our AWS management console, right? And now we need to create this VPC. So here we can go and select the VPC and go and create. But before creating that, we need to understand, right, in which region do we create this network. And this is most important. If you know AWS has more than I think 36, if I remember correctly, last time I have read, so they have 36 AWS regions, right? So here we need to understand in which region we create this network, right? So currently I'm in the North Virginia, and here we have all these different region. It looks like going to log out, not. Yeah. So here we need to ask with the customer, okay, in which region do you want to create this network, okay. So for this use case we'll select the North Virginia, but meantime you people let me know in the chat box what are different valid region to deciding which region we will use. There are a different factor we do consider before selecting AWS region. So what are different factor we should consider? Type in the chat box. If I get enough answer is fine. If not, then I will explain you. Now here I will go and type VPC Virtual Private Cloud and select here. And if you don't know, type don't know, then I will maybe explain here. Now click on the VPC, and here we see one VPC, and you see here we have different subnets. So this is basically default VPC. So in AWS, in each AWS region, AWS creates a default VPC for us. And in this VPC, if you go and see the subnets, all subnets are public. So there's no private subnet at all. So when you are doing some sort of demo or learning AWS services, in that case, you can use these subnets and this VPC, but for customer and the real-time application, this is not recommended to use default VPC. And especially when I create AWS account for any customer, and when we create the account, then we do some basic setups for the AWS account. Okay, so like we enable cloud trail, we create network, and then we also enable loggings and so many things, right? And this all things comes into the part of AWS landing zone. So one of the things what we do, we go ahead and delete all default VPC. So by mistake, none of the engineers and developer should create resources in the default subnet. So default VPC, because default VPC, all subnets is the public by default. Okay, so we should delete it. Here Lakshman is saying, could you please repeat the question? Lakshman, question was, what are the different criteria to select AWS region? So here now we are going to create VPC, right? But here we see we have around more than 30 region. So in which region we will create this VPC? So this is the question. And what are different criteria and the different points we should think or maybe ask with the customer before deciding this VPC? Okay, so let's delete this as this is not a good practice. Okay, so I'll go ahead and delete this, and it's asking me to type here delete default default VPC and delete this. Got deleted. So let's go ahead and start creating the VPC. To create VPC, we will click on this button, create VPC. And here there is the two way. One way, create VPC only. Another way, you can create VPC and more. And here now AWS has given this a new way of creating VPC. And here we see is for us by default given some subnets details, some route table details, and some network connection details. Okay, so if you want to follow this, do follow. But when you are learning or when we are creating for the customer, we use only this one. Okay, and especially when we are working for the customer, then we don't do this manually. Basically we automate with the cloud formation template. So maybe we can also do that later as well. But today, let's start and create manually. So first things first, we need to give name of the VPC, and we will give this Epic Reads VPC, and then we need the CIDR, right? So we already decided the CIDR for our VPC and the subnets. So we'll go ahead and copy from here, and let's go and put it here, and let me send this link in the chat so maybe you people can use this. Perfect. And other than that, there is the tags. Okay, we can use tag, and tag is very important. Let's not go in that detail and create the VPC. Okay, there is, I think, a space. We need to remove this and create VPC, and VPC got created for us. Okay, so now what is next? look at our architecture, and here we need to create the subnet, public subnet to public subnet, right? So let's go, and then we'll go to the subnet, and to create a subnet, let's refresh this. Okay, and create subnet, and here we need to select VPC to create our subnetwork, because we know subnetwork is part of the network, and this is our VPC. Okay, so here what will be the name we can give? Let's call this epic reads. Okay, let's simplify this. Epic reads er, then public subnet 1, and we can go with the ability zones. So let's select US East 1A, and of course this is CIDR of our VPC. Okay, then here we need to select the CIDR for our this subnet. So we'll go and pick it from here. So first CIDR range, we get it from here, and then paste it, remove all the space it's coming along with, and create. So very simple, we got created, it's got created. Now let's create another one, and let's give again e read public subnet 2, and again we need to get the IP address, CIDR range for this subnet. So copy from here, and we will paste it and create. And similar, let me refresh this. So you could see here we have two subnets. It's two subnets, and quickly let me create others as well. Then EpicReads private subnet 1, we can create more as well here. This will be subnet 2. Okay, let's get the IP range, copy and paste here, remove this space. Again for second, we'll copy this, and in a moment I'm going to tell you very important things about VPCs. So though we are calling this, okay, now again let's create another one as well. So epic reads dp subnet 1. I will copy it again, scroll down, I will add one more, this I will call it 2. Then let's copy the IP address and go back, and yes, here this IP address, and again let's go ahead and get this IP address and paste it here and create. It's creating, and now deselect all, and now we will see we have two public subnet 1, and this name is not correct, we can edit this to public subnet 1 and 2, private subnet 1 and 2, db subnet 1 and 2. Perfect. Now let's go to our architecture, and now we see we have created this. So here one very important question. So now we have created the VPC and created the subnet. So now does the public subnet what we have created, not this public subnet what we are created, is this public subnet is really public and these private subnets are really private, or do we need to do something over here? Okay, Lakshman is saying for the subnet we need to mandatory specify edged. Lakshman, this is not mandatory, okay, but technically or ideally when we are designing a VPC for customer, then we specify, because what we want all these subnets, okay, in this row should go in one ability zones, and all these will go in another availability zone. Okay, so we specify, but I think I have specified only for the public subnet one, I haven't specified. So what it will do, it will go and take a random subnets, and that's something we can check from here. Let's go here. Okay, and we can check from here. So now ability zone is uses, okay, so it's very bad. Okay, you see it's uses is 1a 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 1a, so this is very bad. Okay, so we should not be doing like this. So always public subnet 1 and private subnet 1 and db subnet 1 should go in one ability zones, and public subnet 2, private subnet 2, db subnet 2 should go in different ability zones. So we should specify it when we are creating for the customer. Very good question. Okay, now again I'm coming back to my original question. So my question was, so we have created our VPC, right, and two public subnets, and we said these are the public subnets we created, right? We also created two private subnets and two db subnets. So does this public subnet is really public subnet as of now, and these are the private subnet, or do we need to do anything here? Abhishek is saying we need to create a route table. Abhishek, you are right. Okay, and yes, somehow you answer my question. So let me tell you guys, as of now, what we did in this AWS console, we went and created two public subnet, two private subnet, and two db subnet, and we are saying two public subnet and the remaining are the private subnet. Technically these are neither public, these are not private as of now. Okay, if you want to make it public, we need to make it public, and to make it public you have to do couple of more things. Okay, so what we need to do, that's something I will cover in the next Friday. Okay, because this session is only for 1 hour. Okay, so in today's session what we understood, we have created VPC. Okay, we created the four subnets, and the next session we will come and understand how do we actually make a subnet, public subnet, and then a subnet and private subnet, and then we proceed from there. Okay, now I will take some question from you. Okay, then we will wrap up session over here, and we'll continue this on the next Friday again, same time, 9 p.m. ist. And here we are going to do a lot of things. As you see, if you scroll down, okay, once we create VPC, then we are going to set up the subnets. Then we are going to configure internet access, then security, then network access control list. Then we are going to test it. We are going to create the some EC2 instance in the public subnet, some private subnet. Then we again discuss that, okay, and test that. So this is going to be a lot. It's very interesting. So very good plan for the next, not next, means every coming Friday. So yes, so this is the plan. So guys, let me know if you have any question in the chat box, so I will answer your question. Did you teach Google Cloud as well? Kishore, I am Google Cloud certified trainer, okay, but I don't provide any trainings, okay, on Google Cloud. Currently I'm only focusing on the AWS. Priya is saying, how do we decide CIDR range? Okay, Priya, so this is what I was explaining in the beginning, right? So again, I'm going to summarize it, and maybe let me stop sharing my screen so you can see me. Okay, so first of all, so things are changed a lot from the last 10 years. Okay, so in 2014 and 13, when I was working for the one of the US telecom company, that time we had only three AWS accounts. One was for the development, another was for the QA, then third one was for the production. Okay, and each has one VPCs. Okay, and again, miss, development has the more VPCs. Okay, there was the VPCs for the different applications. Okay, just couple of applications. Okay, and that was the how this was designed. Okay, so it was very easy that time managing these VPCs and IP addresses. Nowadays, AWS recommend create VPC, sorry, AWS account per application and per environment. Okay, it means if a customer has, let's say, 50 AWS 50 applications, right, and they have operating across three environment, then they need at least 150 accounts, right? What does it mean? It means they need 150 VPC, and these VPCs will have the unique IP address, right? And this need to be unique because in these VPCs, when we create any resources or when we deploy any application, so maybe this application need to talk to each other. So when they need to talk to each other, so this IP address should not be the same. They should not collide. Okay, so it need to be different. So IP management is a itself very big task, and this is a tool we use inside the industry. Okay, so let's not go there, but here simply, when you work for a as a cloud engineer, so this 98% chance this will be given to you, this VPC will be given to you. Okay, you will be only creating maybe network, even not, okay, maybe security group. Okay, and that's all. Then you will be launching resources inside it. But in case if you need to create it, then you should ask with the your customer and your organization, hey, to create this VPC, okay, give me CIDR range. So they will give you the CIDR range which I was explaining you. It will be something like 10.0.0.0 slash, okay, if 16, then there will be 65,000 IP address. If you will be slash 24, as we have seen, it means there will be 254 IP addresses. Okay, so we will get CIDR from the customer, and if customer don't give, they say okay, go ahead and you decide. Okay, then it's good to ask question with them, hey, how many IP address do you need in this network? Or maybe you can even ask some simple question. So how many application do you are planning to run in that subnet, maybe in this network? Okay, so they will tell you. Okay, so based on that you need to decide. If they will say maybe I need 100, I need 100 applications, right, then maybe you can go with maximum 1000 IP address, right? So that how you decide. And once you decide and come to know CIDR, then that from CIDR, VPC CIDR, we need to subdivide it for your sub network. I hope it answered your question. So Kishore is asking why DMS is not focusing on MS SQL in migration on premises to AWS RDS. I have seen the syllabus, but I could not find it. Kishore, DMS support. Okay, so AWS database migration service. Okay, database migration service. So what Kishore is asking, okay, so Kishore is asking, there is on premises, in on premises there are the MS SQL server, and MS SQL server is the database, and from that database He's planning to migrate data to the data to the AWS environment. In AWS environment, he's planning to use RDS. So here from the on-premises MySQL, sorry, MS SQL, he need to migrate data to the AWS RDS database. It could be maybe Aurora, maybe Postgres. So to migrate this data from on-premises to the cloud, we use a service called DMS, Database Migration Service. So it's saying it is not supported. Kishore, answer is this is supported. Okay, I have used for my customer, and we have migrated many database from MS SQL to the Aurora Postgres, and also from Oracle to the Postgres. Even I have did for the IBM DB2. Okay, so this is supported. Look into the AWS documentation, you will find it. Lakshman is asking, for every department, for different environment, prod, dev, test, QA, we need to create different VPC. So Lakshman, answer is yes. Okay, nowadays, okay, we should create AWS account per environment per application. Okay, this is the best practice because of couple of reasons. One of one and the most important reason could be the isolation of the services. Okay, isolation of the data, isolation of the application. Right, it's not good idea of running production application and the development application from the same account and the same VPC. So there could be the chance by mistakenly any developer will delete a production instance, right? Production application. So ideally, we should have the different VPC and we should have the different network. Kishore Singh, I have seen in the training syllabus. I will check on the website also. Yes, Kishore, this is available. Do check it out. Okay, I have migrated this. Priya saying yes, understood. Thank you. Perfect. Super. Guys, we have more 6 minutes. So do let me know if you have any question. Lakshman, you are most welcome. Guys, this was the first session, and I have seen there was some technical glitch in the beginning, but yeah, I think from the next week it will be good. Abhishek, thank you so much. Abhishek is saying it was very knowledgeable session. You are most welcome. Thank you. Abhinav, thank you so much. Guys, I will strongly recommend, okay, go ahead and watch at least, yeah, this video from this playlist. I'm sharing the link again, so it will be very helpful for the upcoming sessions. So you watch at least this networking, you can watch the videos from this playlist, AWS Mastery Marathon. And thank you so much you all for joining this session, and see you in the next Friday. And once we complete this networking part, okay, then we'll jump on some new topics. And really, there's a lot of things I'm doing with my current customer, and I can talk about that. Okay, so currently I'm migrating around 300 application from my own of the customer, from the global AWS region to the China region. Okay, and for that I'm doing architecture, and again creating a strategy, so many things. So a couple of things, very good things I can talk in the future. So be stay tuned, and see you on the coming Friday. Abhishek, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. And yeah, see you guys on the next Friday.